evening, everyone, and happy 2021. Welcome to the regular meeting for the Daly City Library Board of Trustees for January 19, 2020. Before we start our meeting, I'll go ahead and read the COVID-19 announcement for public meetings pursuant to Governor Newsom's executive order. N2520, members of the Daly City Library Board and staff will participate in this meeting via teleconference. Members of the public are encouraged to watch the meeting via live stream and submit comments through the live stream website and or submit public comments via email prior to the public meeting. To submit a comment in writing, please email libraryboard@dalycity.org and write public comment in the subject line. In the body of the email, include the item number and or title of the item as well as your comments. All comments received by 4 p.m. will be emailed to the library board members and included as an add to packet on the city's website prior to the meeting. Those comments received after 4 p.m. will be added to the record and shared with the library board members for the public meeting. Persons with disabilities require auxiliary aids or services in attending or participating in this meeting should call the office of the city clerk at 991-8078 as soon as possible. I call this meeting to order. Can we stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have roll call, please?
I can do that. President Logarta.
Present.
Vice President Faupua.
Present.
Trustee Daly.
Present.
And Trustee Santos.
Present.
That's all of us now.
Thank you. I hope everyone's had an opportunity to review tonight's agenda. If there are no updates, may I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And for the minutes from our last meeting on November 17th, 2020, is there a motion to move?
Motion. Motion. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. May we have the director's report, please?
You're on mute, Sheila.
Yes, thank you. I was so forward thinking. We have, as a special guest tonight, we have Cole Johnson, our supervising librarian and manager of the main library. And he has an overview as we've come to the end of a calendar year of use of electronic resources from the library. And I'm going to point over to him, but I'm going to attempt to share his presentation here. Is that working?
Yes.
Yay! Just let me know when you'd like to change slides.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so yes, I'm Cole Johnson of the Sermoni Main Library. So what we're doing is looking at our e-library, which is the electronic version of the library. We're looking at January 2020 up until the latest data, which is going to be December for most things. We have one that only goes up to September, but mostly we're looking at a full year of usage to see how the shelter in place changed usage behavior patterns and adoption of using digital resources. And it's pretty interesting to see how it changed. So let's go ahead and start. Next slide, please. All right, so our first metric we're looking at is the instant digital card registrations. This was a campaign that's done through our ebook provider, Overdrive, which is our largest provider of ebooks. And so they have a program where you can sign up with simply using your phone number. So it's going to ping a database where it verifies where you live based on the ownership of that mobile phone number. So it allows people to sign up and start using digital resources right away. And I know the marketing team in the Peninsula Library System was doing bus campaigns before this started, trying to get people into it. But you'll see in this graph here, pretty significant spike in March and April. So we had around 50 uses in January, going all the way up to 80%. Then kind of, sorry, up to 80, and then kind of tapering off, kind of ends off the year right around 50. So for the year, there's not a huge growth, but you can see there's a big spike of people who did get their card and started using their resources right away. So that's pretty interesting. We had people finding that it's not something that we necessarily promote on our main page, but people come to it when they look for ebooks and connect to it that way. If at any point you have any questions, I guess I'll just leave it open for questions at the end of each slide. Any questions so far?
I would just add that this is a service that is meant to capture people who might not even be aware of their library and the library services that are offered. And it allows them to get started, as Cole said, without any interaction with staff, just instantaneously for using our e-resources. So
Yeah,
it was a great addition.
Yeah, good comment. All right, we can move to the next slide then. So instant digital cards. So this is the usage of those cards. So we saw a spike in March and April, then tapered off. But over the year, we saw a 71% increase of active users of those instant digital cards. So we saw it go from 400, and I think my label here is off here. It says registrations, but these are like 400 active uses going all the way up to 800 in the summer, and then kind of staying steady throughout that entire time. So that's a pretty significant growth that we saw of people who got their card that way and were able to use the library, the e-library in that way. So I thought that was a pretty impressive number. All right. So the Daly City Library app, we have an app. It's available in the iOS store. You can get it on your iPhone. You have it in the Google Play Store. It's called Daly City Library. And we saw overall a decrease for the year, but I think we saw a nice spike going from about 100 to 120, and that stayed constant throughout the early months of the shelter in place, kind of tapered off. One way we're going to change that is it's kind of hidden on our site before. Now we have it really front and center. When you go to our main page, we have the library apps, and that was kind of a push to get people to be aware of those apps. We have apps for, I think we have 4 different apps, and we'll talk about all of them. So one of them is the Daly City Library app. It allows you to manage your account, also read ebooks through it, so you can access the collections in that way. So I expect we'll see, if we do this again the end of next year, I expect we'll see greater penetration of this app in the coming year. All right, next slide, please.
I have a
So,
quick question on that
sure.
app, Cole.
Yeah.
Besides the website, has it been posted anywhere else that there's an app?
Well, not really, no. I mean, it's of course you can find it if you have the sense to, like, oh, I want to search for my library in the app store, it'll appear. But anywhere else we could promote it, that would be great. I mean, we could probably put it out on social media more often. I think when we first got it, we put it in the newsletter. So it was in the newsletter at first, but as we have so many things to promote, it kind of fell off the radar. So I could probably put it in the next edition and kind of feature it some more. Of course, any other ideas would be great too.
Yeah, that'd be great. Especially for the young people who are like on social media all the time. Like, I think that would be good to promote.
Great, thanks for that. We'll put that on. We've got a schedule, so I'll add that to one of the things that we look at. So this is the Overdrive ebooks and audiobooks, and this is going to be the most impressive collection. It's the most used. If you can look at the numbers on the side there, they're well into the thousands for each month, which is pretty great. So we saw 65% growth over the year. That's from January to December, comparing those two numbers, but with big spikes in October. So we were getting about 2,000 checkouts a month in January, up to 3,000 in May, peaking at 3,500 in October, and that's about where we are now, give or take a couple hundred. So these are going to be ebooks, audiobooks for all age ranges. This is our biggest collection by far. And wow, what a big growth we saw in that. So that's really impressive. I've never quite looked at it in this way before. It makes me think maybe we need to, I mean, we are always expanding what we spend on this collections, but it makes me think that this is a really big driver of how people are using the libraries. And it'll be interesting to see if that continues to be the case, because as we know, a lot of the reading I've been doing is that all the change that's been pushed forward during this time is accelerated. And when you have the chance to adopt a new behavior, it becomes a habit. So I think we'll see people using these ebooks from here on out. So that's pretty incredible, I think.
Just wanted to chime in also, I'm sure I've mentioned it before, but this particular vendor provides a school-specific app as well, and the Jefferson Elementary and Jefferson High School districts have both signed up that allows their students to go through their authentication process, so they don't need to get a card if they don't have a card, and then access age-appropriate books and audiobooks in our collection. So it's more seamless for kids, and it allows them to incorporate it into their curriculum as well. So hopefully that will also get people started reading these very early.
Great. All right, next slide, please. Okay, this is a Canopy streaming video, and this is a pretty impressive number, I think. So this is our competitor with Netflix and Amazon Prime Video and Hulu. They brand themselves as thoughtful entertainment. So they have documentaries, they've got lectures, university lectures, but they've also got really popular collections. We recently featured I think it's called Black Voices collection. During when we came out in support of Black Lives Matter, we used them to do a program and show the last Black man in San Francisco, and they had a really nice category for films by Black directors. But so it's a nice blend of popular things and educational materials, and we're seeing great adoption of it because it's grown by 256% in this year alone. So, and that's just comparing January and December and throwing out outliers like in May. And I think we saw a lot of use in May because there was a teacher that had made an assignment, is what I hear, that used the Canopy collection. So that's why we saw that pretty dramatic spike. But just evening it out, you can see that people are really starting to, it's really starting to take hold, because we started out at a little over 200 movies viewed in January, and now we're over 1,000, at the end of the year. And we recently had to refund this collection because I put more money into it because it's been so popular. So we're going to be watching this closely and seeing, hope that it continues to grow. I mean, in some ways it's going to be growing pains because we get charged by the view, but in other ways we're happy to see people really connect with it. I mean, it's pretty an incredible success story, especially when we think of how hard it is to get people in the library sometimes. When we look at numbers like this, it's really heartening to see that people are not only willing and interested, they're using it regularly and perhaps creating network effects by sharing it with their friends and getting people on board with what we offer. So this was a really exciting number to look at for me. And great films, you get up to 10 views a month. So if you're not already doing it, it's got some great movies on there with your library card. So RB Digital, this isn't a very impressive percentage number, but it's really because it was started off at a very low place. I think you'll see in January, At less than 20, we had about 5 uses. And then we closed out the end of the year with 120. So we had this crazy number of 1,350% growth. But still, it shows that it's being adopted and being used. I think this will change in the next month because they were purchased by Overdrive, which, as I mentioned, that big provider, the one that almost all of our digital users are familiar with. So they're magazines. And what this is e-magazines. So they look like the print magazine, they're digital version of the library. I mean, of the magazine. So if you load one of these magazines on an iPad, it looks great. It looks better than a print magazine. It's very high resolution and everything looks really, really good. So I expect that this is a newer product that we offer. And now that it's being taken into Overdrive, I think it's going to be a very good year for next year. So big growth by percentage, but small use at first, but growing very steadily throughout the year.
Magazines are one of those things that I think had more barriers to access during the while we were doing curbside, because they're not individually in the catalog, so it's harder for people to request them. So I think having them available in this digital form, where you don't have to worry about quarantining them or cleaning them or anything like that, they're available instantly on your own device. And as Cole said, they're very slick. It's a really nice user experience on a tablet.
All right, next slide, please. Safari eBooks, it showed about a 39% growth over the year, which is good. And this has always had a pretty steady use. Safari eBooks are mainly computer use books, and a lot of them can be as simple as how do I use my iPhone to really advanced, like how do I programming languages, for example, and things that really support some of the careers that might be in the area of people in the IT industry, for example. Some of them are also business books, professional development. I'm quite happy with the numbers for this. It shows that people really value it, and a lot of them are from those kind of books that you use for your job, and they may be $60, $75. So it's a pretty, it's great service, I think, that we provide for workforce development, to support people in their careers, to support educational growth and attainment for our community. So very happy with Safari's performance this year. And these were always going to be users who were comfortable with technology. So I think that's why it's pretty steady, because people who wanted it probably knew about it, but we still saw it grow because they couldn't, even if they preferred the print, couldn't get in the building to use it necessarily, for some time. Okay, next slide, please. ABC Mouse, this is, you may have heard of this. This is a pretty popular educational program. It's commercial, you can buy it for yourself at home. But we have a deal where we have a certain number of passes. Jayla, do you know the number of passes offhand? I don't know offhand. I think it may be like 20 a month or something like that.
I believe they've increased it now that it was initially grant funded, and now that it's not, it's increased, but I don't have the number. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, so there's a certain number of passes that families can check out. I meant to look into this to see if maybe that's a barrier to use. I'm not sure. But we can see that in February, there's a huge uptick. Maybe that was because people are like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm doing homeschooling. I need something to, occupy time. And then it kind of petered out over the year, but we still saw 20% growth. The numbers are pretty low, so I think it may be a function of the limited number of passes. It's not an endless supply. Like if you look at something like Overdrive, there's thousands of books. You may have to wait in line for it, but that's why numbers can get really high. I think here we may be hitting a constraint in that way. So
I believe that in March we had done some additional promotion of it as well, so that could
oh, okay, so that can show the power of promotion. Absolutely.
we were just discussing doing it again.
So is there a charge for ABC Mouse?
So the library's ABC Mouse subscription, the library pays on behalf of our users. So if you the one quirk with it's a very easy to use through the app, but if you need to set up your account via a browser is the only constraint, so that you are sure to go through the library's link, and that's how they know that you are covered by our subscription.
Okay, so if they go through the library link, then that it's a free service for them,
Yes.
but otherwise they have to pay.
Yeah, because they do have a popular commercial product.
Right. Yeah. But I remember us rolling out ABC Mouse like years ago, and it was really, really popular. So I'm actually quite surprised to see it like not as successful as the other platforms.
Yeah, that's
Just
interesting.
speculation, but I think maybe kids are getting a lot of screen time too, so maybe the appetite is a little bit reduced.
I think it's also a case that was one where we had advertising in the library and parents were always like, wow, you have this. So if you get it in front of people's eyes, they're excited about it. And so
Yeah.
I think that's a good case for promoting it again and featuring it. Okay, next
Can
slide,
I
please.
ask how much we pay for that subscription, please?
Sure. We pay $2,000 a year for it. It's a negotiated lower rate. It was paid for the prior 2 years by the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative.
Is there any way that if we can monitor and if we see that this year, since everything now is virtual with lots of screens with families, that if it's not utilizing as much as before, can we unsubscribe it and maybe put it on something else?
We do sometimes make adjustments based on how well things are being adopted. It's typically done on an annual basis. We're paid through the year, but yes, definitely if the demand is not there, we would want to invest in something that there's greater demand for, certainly.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, next slide, please. So closing thoughts are our digital collections showed strong growth across the board in 2020. As I mentioned, our new site has the apps right on the homepage. So the apps that we have are going to be Daly City Library app, the Canopy app, and which is pretty nice because it runs on smart TVs. So it can actually just be another app like Netflix on your Roku TV or whatever you're using. It runs on obviously iOS, iPads. It's everywhere, but I thought that was pretty neat that it was in the smart TV stores. We have the Overdrive app, which also has the school age version of it called Sora. And we have the RB Digital app, which is the e-magazines. So we have all those highlighted on our website now as kind of a way to guide people into the most accessible things or something or that we felt would be an access point for people and become kind of a habitual thing, like let me open the app and see what's a new book and we'll see how that goes. I think we're seeing that Daly City residents are comfortable using our e-library and that these collections help meet their educational and entertainment needs while our branches are closed. I think we're seeing that from the strong growth of all these products across the board. The pandemic has accelerated technological change and adoption. So I would be happy to come back and look at these mid-year or on the quarterly basis or even the annual, however, whenever you want to see it, I'm happy to come and talk about how they're being used. And as I said, habits formed during the pandemic might continue in this new year in conjunction with the general trend that we're seeing towards digital distribution and access. So I'm happy to answer, Chayla and I can answer any questions you have.
Nothing, just want to express how my thanks, totally appreciate all the hard work that you put in this. And I know that the residents and Daly City communities. Enjoy having somebody that able to maneuver all that for all of us. So during these times. So thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Vice President. So Cole, I did have a question. With the uptick in ebooks and the audiobooks and the streaming, how often are we updating the selection?
Well, those books are bought on a consortial level. So we share them throughout the county, but we have outsized influence because Marie Nguyen and Joshua Reeves, two of our librarians, are two of the main selectors. So they're
Oh,
buying,
wow.
yeah, they're doing a fair share of the work, and they have a monthly schedule where they're buying the new titles, monitoring. One interesting thing is that you can really respond to all the trends because you see what is being held. They have what's called the holds manager, so it can automatically suggest that you purchase things that people are interested in. So I think that the ebooks offer a way for us to spend money in a way that's informed by data. So it's driven by what people really will use. As soon as we buy it, it goes on hold for them. So I think we're in a unique position that we really are able to influence what the collection looks like and use the tools to smartly spend the funds that we have.
So it's adaptive. That's great. I think that, what you said, like this is probably going to be the continuing trend. So we will, even as things get back to normal, we don't know that ebooks and audiobooks are not going to be as popular still. They'll probably be more popular. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'll open it up also to Trustee Dawes, Trustee Santos. Any comments or questions?
No comments or questions. Thank you, Cole, for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Yeah, not much more for me. I think just reiterating, I think it would be helpful to keep promoting the online stuff, especially I think as folks are settling into this virtual structure and we're still going to ease our way back to be in person. I think there's a lot of attention on online. So it would be good to just broaden our reach a little bit.
Great.
Thank you, Cole, again for preparing that.
Happy
We really appreciate it.
happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
So moving on to our next item, which is the library services during stay-at-home order.
Yeah, so since our prior meeting, our curbside service has had to be suspended because of the new stay-at-home order. So that's changed things a little. It puts more importance on the things that Cole was just talking about, the e-resources, because those are absolutely contactless and available 24/7. We are continuing to do our virtual programs, of course, the popular story times, including the Mandarin one and the one in Spanish. And the staff are also working on some additional fun things. I think they're actually doing one right as we speak. I believe they're doing a family game program via Zoom. So they're getting real creative again. Um, with the pausing of curbside, we had throughout this time we had been doing a mailing of holds, and people, some people needed that for whatever reason. Maybe they were at higher risk. So the demand for that has immediately increased. I think we saw in all of November, we sent out 25 packages because that was when we had the most availability of curbside. It was at all 4 locations and we had added some hours. And then the first week after the stay-at-home order, we sent out 163 packages, and there's been 585 since then. So it's a bit staff intensive, but I've gotten really positive feedback from the patrons. I know that they appreciate it. Hopefully, if any of you need anything, you can go ahead and get your materials that way. We are looking forward to being able to resume curbside and hopefully for the community to be a safer, healthier place soon. But until then, we're going to continue on with the holds by mail and the virtual programs and the electronic resources. I just wanted to make sure we're still here and we're still providing services. They just look different.
Any anticipated date for the curbside to reopen again?
I don't,
About the
I mean,
thing.
I don't know if Stephen has anything to add.
So I would love to have a date in mind, but excuse me, the surge is still here in COVID cases,
Yeah.
so we're just kind of tracking that day by day at this point.
Mhm.
We do want to bring it back as soon as we can, but we kind of took this citywide approach to scaling back during the surge because the numbers are, yeah, it's almost worse than in the beginning of the pandemic. So hopefully soon in the next month.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay. So for the trustees report, I'm gonna kind of partner with Stephen here to open up some dialogue. Like if I think about myself and like my busy schedule, last time we met was November, and we were on a time scale, and so you know, it was the holidays, and so I kind of wanted to kind of bring us back to square one when we talk about our role clarity. Stephen, can you kick us off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I think what I can do, and I can't remember, I think we were missing one trustee when we did the presentation.
Yeah, so Trustee Santos was not able to make it. So that's why it's good to kind of, you know, revisit the entire conversation so that she can see the slides that you prepared, and, you know, we can all kind of talk about it and what our next steps are.
Okay, so here is my screen. Hopefully you can see that. So just to recap, and I'll be a little more brief this time. The library board was created by the city council, and it was really to establish a greater connection with our community and libraries. Okay, and as you'll see as we work through some of the roles and duties of trustees, most of them are focused on that really specific link between community and library services. Okay, you all serve in an advisory capacity to the city council, and the board was created by an ordinance. Okay, that's just pretty standard stuff for how we create our boards and commissions. The first area of roles is about acting in an advisory capacity. Okay, and it's on everything related to libraries, from capital improvements in our buildings to fundraising activities, or, you know, any of the programs we detail on a monthly basis with you all. Okay, our library division staff brings those matters before you, and then they seek your input, and it's a very formal way of conducting business because you're appointed to this public role. So really, I think what we all hope is that trustees will just listen and evaluate all that information, and then connect it to your perspectives, and especially what you've been hearing in the community about, you know, what's in demand, what could we do to better serve community members. And I know a lot of you are already doing that, you know, as part of your role. The next area is B, and it says consider the annual budget before it goes to city council. And this is just according to our standard budget timeline. The division staff will continue to ensure that we get your feedback on budget. That's kind of a standardized thing that we do every year with budget formation. And it really links to the programs and services we're offering and whether or not they are aligned with community needs and priorities. Again, you know, that's kind of how I think that, you know, trustees should be evaluating the budget. Now let me go to page 2 here. Okay, then the third area of roles is about this is where it gets more dynamic as a trustee, okay? Because not only do you provide your recommendations on library services, but you also act as a champion for those services in the community. And right here it says, like, the exact language is promote and stimulate public interest in our libraries. So I think the way I read this, and actually let's do D together because these two are so related. D is to gather input from community members, be a conduit for the community to us about where we could go with library programs. It can be creative too and open-ended. And then, so these two together, that's really the really dynamic part of your role. You're soliciting community perspectives. Maybe this is done through your social media accounts. Maybe you can create a special, trustee so-and-so, on Twitter or Instagram, something like that. You could have some sort of official presence like that to solicit input and opinions. But then also it's two ways because we also want your help in sharing all the different programs our library offers. And there's just so many to keep track of for our community members. So you can really help us promote them and get more people interested. So that pretty much sums up the 4 areas of responsibility. And I kind of boiled it down to the main themes here in this green box. And it's such a great opportunity to be a trustee, especially for our very much loved library system. And I think that maybe it's hard to think about these roles on the spot. I totally get it. It takes a long time to digest maybe how you would apply these to your own personal goals as a trustee. And it doesn't have to look the same for each person on the board. But some questions you might think about are there any areas that we talked about or that you might want to think about further for yourself and explore further? And then really, especially, how might you solicit community feedback? Because that's, that comes up so clearly in the roles. And then just help us promote, do outreach and just build support for libraries. So, I'm interested to know if maybe going over these roles makes you think differently about what you want to do here as a trustee, or maybe it gets you thinking on other areas about community connections and things like that. So I'll leave it open-ended, and it's all for your discussion, and I'm happy to jump in and guide it.
Stephen. Hi, Stephen. Happy New Year, Stephen.
Happy New Year.
I have a question. Is there any way under each role do you have like the list of things that relatively or like pertaining to that specific role? You know what I'm saying? So that way to me, it's not overlapping. Duties are not overlapping, or I don't feel like I'm overwhelmed. Like maybe one fits, can kind of parallel together with another role. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking what you're asking for is specifics, kind of
Yes.
specific tasks that you could do. That's something that we could work on. But it really is kind of this could be the brainstorming session right here where you all maybe think of one thing, just one to start with, a
Yeah.
brief task.
And something that kind of actually, focus with right now, with what we're dealing with right now, with these times, how can we even maybe combine that together or even separate, but at the same time serving right now, with what we're going through right now.
Yeah, and I think linking it to bigger societal issues is a great idea. So you're right on. And Shayla and Cole, please jump in if you have ideas here too. I think one of the things that really stands out to me is promoting or generating interest in our electronic services. You know, we just saw that presentation where everything skyrocketed, you know, in
Right.
terms of demand. And yet there's still more people out there that probably don't know about these services, right? So how can we even reach more people and get more success? So maybe that's a good starting point because it really hits on the pandemic. It can also hit on timely topics that people are seeking in their reading materials or
Right.
their movies or magazines, you know, the whole range of stuff. So that could be something else. You know, I know our library staff are always curating content. So that could be somewhere where we really link up. I remember last year when the library staff did their curated reading list for the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, that there's that, you know, amplifying the message there, I think might help. But and another thing is through your own circles, you know, you're connected to so many people in Daly City. If you're hearing things, please tell us, right? You know, bring it up at
Right.
meetings, shoot us an email if you heard something specific. Or if you're not hearing so much, maybe it's about posing the question to people that you know about libraries and what they would like to see. So I think that might be a starting point that's grounded with, you know, the reality that we're all living through right now.
So one thing I would say is, to kind of piggyback off of what Vice President was saying is that, it's a lot of information, right? So it's a lot of information for us to kind of like brainstorm. And then in the course of probably like 10 minutes, we won't get very far. But what we do know is that there is a need, and one thing that resonates with me is to stimulate the interest of the community and collaborate, right? So we can apply just that, stimulating interest via social media, via talking to people, via talking to staff, and really bringing that information that we uncover to, city council, to city members, as needed as the liaison for the community. And really kind of taking a look at our current situation in the pandemic, how, we're dealing with COVID-19. Are there any improvements that need to be made? How can we be more collaborative in that respect? Is a good starting point and, discussion topic for our next meeting. But if I recall from our last meeting too, we were going to try to do kind of like a study focus group and in place of one of the meetings, upcoming meetings, or it was in addition to.
I remember it being in addition to,
In addition to.
but
Okay.
I think we have the option of going the other way too.
Yeah, so I think that would be great for us to kind of like just sit down and then collaborate, just focus on just that, and that'll be a good kind of starting point to guide our future meetings. What do you all think about that?
I think that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I'm wondering is like during these library events, like online events, is there a way for folks to give feedback like after they attend an event? Maybe like on a Google form or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
The good suggestion, Lauren. You know, that's really good. But as far as the I think an addition meeting will be good. Hopefully by then we'll have a replacement. You know, it's good if we have somebody else to fill that seat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
So
know.
to get that fifth member, yeah.
Yeah, so that way we're like together.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be a repetition, you know, and I mean, we have the majority right now, but you know, it's always good to have that extra set of eyes, set of opinions, set of knowledge. set of skills and intelligent. So I'm all for it. So I like both ideas that was brought up. We'll go for a second study or second meeting. That will be a special session.
Mhm.
And then Lauren's idea with the to have a feedback.
Additional feedback, yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice. But you know, as far as the four of us that were on board right now, I think to going back to what Mr. Stolder was saying, uh, in my way of putting out there is, I mean, we are all in different districts, you know. Uh, I'll be willingly to do the to be that person for Bayshore. You know, I'll bring in all the resources or everything that goes on to Bayshore,
Mhm.
you know, and make it put it out there in the media on my end.
Mhm.
So I suggest, or it's just an opinion, that if all of us will pull that together from
Mhm.
the group of friends that we have, then we somehow will uplift that part.
Mhm.
And then we go to the next part, you
Mhm.
know, what else that we need to do. But if anybody else, if we want to all pick one and work from that, that's even better too. I'm a team player. I'll go wherever what everybody feel like we
Mhm.
can do it.
One avenue that occurred to me was if you ever wanted to have an item in our newsletter, our monthly newsletter, you could do that, or some
Mhm.
sort of survey or appeal for feedback. And, you know, as we saw the power of promotion, once we get those things out there, we usually get some kind of a result from it. So
You know, the other thing, a lot of these duties, you're already doing them, right? So now we're just kind of focusing on them so we can just all align around them and get creative, you know, if you, as much as you want to around different things. But, you know, every time you show up to one of these meetings and give us great feedback on programs, you know, you're doing a lot of what you're supposed to do already. It's just, you know, together as a group, we could focus on different areas too. Um, Online promotion is clearly what we're stuck with for now, you know,
Mhm.
virtually. But when things change and open back up, I would love to revisit this conversation then when we're all back in person, because it's just, you know, you can do so much more at that point, and just showing up in person to our events or, you know, whatever it is. I think that FaceTime with the community as a trustee,
Mhm.
really helpful.
And I agree that we can support in different capacities, even in our everyday jobs. A lot of us work closely with the communities that we serve, and so I just think there's a lot, right? That we need to kind of set time to kind of like share our ideas and then kind of fine tune them. So you know, I if we could decide, throw out some dates for that study session to, you know, for our trustee role, how we could collaborate, how we could, you know, take a look at the current situation. Um, what days? Well, before I start that, Trustee Santos, did you have any comments that you wanted to share?
Nothing more additional to what you all are naming. I think just want to highlight again, like also continuing to, I think this is like for all of us, continuing to deepen our relationship with DCPLA, who are like really strong partners in this and who's always like throwing down for the libraries, right? And so I'm also curious, like besides getting updates from DCPLA or even just like donations, I know in this time the events like showing to events is not a thing, but what are other ways we can deepen our support while we're sheltering in place?
Agreed. So what are, and I know we're coming up on time, before we get to Victoria, what are some dates that you guys might be available for a study session? I can't remember, Shayla, for our last one that we did for the Brown Act. It was when Trustee Dawes was like newer. How did we execute that?
That was a regular meeting.
That was a regular meeting
Yeah.
Yeah.
on a
Thank you.
Saturday? On a Saturday, right? In the morning?
Maybe that was before I joined this group.
Because I don't think you were there yet, Stephen.
Okay.
But I know like we were kind of trying to do like a community collab and kind of like get to know one another. We did that. And then we did kind of like where we met at Geller and we kind of went over some information. So I just don't know how that was, how we did that. So maybe is it easy as just like connecting with Shayla or connecting with you, Stephen, on possible dates and then running it by?
Yes, that's
Okay.
we could do that all via email actually.
Okay.
And I think that last Brown Act training you're referring to, it was our city attorney, right? And some other
Yes.
city staff. And I think it was for all commissioners, if I'm mistaken.
But we did two. We did two
Okay.
where it was just the libraries, and we thought, hey, this, and then and maybe the next year we did one with all the commissioners because we were
Okay.
trying to like get to know one another. Either way, it was a really good way to collaborate, and if we could take that protected time, like on a Saturday, you know, and I know that's really hard right now, but you know, I think that it would really, you know, impact our future meetings. So I think that that would be a really good idea. So I guess let's do a little bit of homework and send out potential dates. And then maybe have Shayla like say, hey, you know, the week of the 12th work, you know, Saturday morning works well for everyone or something. Does something like that work out?
I can do that.
Yeah, that's something we can handle. And
Okay.
do you have a preference to wait a little bit to see if another appointment can be made to the board, or would you like to just?
Do we know any timeline for that? Do we have anybody in line?
I haven't heard of anybody in line.
So I wanted to have that person, but the show must go on. So why don't we set a day for next month? I think.
Okay. So we'll aim for next month, preferably before our evening meeting, our regular meeting.
Yeah.
Preferably.
So I'll go for February. You guys say Saturday?
It doesn't have to be a Saturday. It really, we have total flexibility on scheduling. So
There could be
Only-
another weekday evening, just, you know, maybe just a way for us to kind of collab. So like I said, what we can do is we can just throw out some dates to Shayla and then she can kind of like coordinate it for us in the interest of time.
I can do a doodle poll.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, just to let you guys know that my second Saturdays and third Saturdays of February are very tight because I have food harvest. Just to give you guys a heads up.
Thank you. Okay. So Victoria, thank you for being so patient with us. You know, as we kind of went through everything, I want to, you know, welcome you and thank you so much for joining. So I'll leave it over to you.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here. It's nice to see you guys after a few months off, even if it's not in person, but we're used to that now, right? So the Daly City Public Library Associates are, we're just working on our virtual event that we're planning on having on April 17th. It'll be an online event. and it's to celebrate our 10 years of since our inception in 2011. And we'll talk a little bit about what we've accomplished, and also talk about what we're thinking about doing for the future. One of the exciting things that we're working on right now, of course, is the Daly City Youth Poet Laureate program. The deadline for that is January 31st. So it's a little less than 2 weeks away, and we've already got some amazing applicants. We're really excited about this. I can't wait to find out who is going to be our first Daly City Youth Poet Laureate. At our event, we will have performances by the finalists. We'll ask them to recite one of their works. And then the culmination of the event will be when we actually name the Youth Poet Laureate. So it should be really awesome. I hope you guys will all be able to be there. Mark your calendars, April 17th. And yeah, that's the main thing we're focusing on right now, is just working on that virtual event, because we decided that we just really, with the shelter in place the way it is right now, we really can't try to plan any in-person events. So, with not being able to do our traditional in-person events, we don't really have any income other than grants. So we're very dependent upon donations from our members and our donors and our sponsors, not only to pass stuff on to the library, but just to keep ourselves up and running, so that we can continue to do our work. Because if we don't have any money for operating expenses, then we won't be able to get those grants to pass along. So we're hoping that we'll have, like a successful event with lots of sponsorships and donations, and we're toying with ideas of a raffle or an online auction or something. I'm not sure. We're still trying to work it out, but that's the biggest thing. We will definitely be advertising that, and we'll hopefully we can get some help promoting that when we get our graphics ready and everything on social media and word of mouth and any other way that you can get the word out that we still need support, even if we can't do St. Patrick's Day luncheon and Crazy About Cars. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Yeah, no, I've seen how the response for the Poet Laureate program, and thank you so much for presenting it and taking it on. We'll definitely continue to support you in promoting it, because this is a really great thing and super innovative and hasn't been done before. So it's actually very exciting for our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so as we end our meeting, well, wait, are there any announcements or communications? No, covered everything.
Nope.
Okay.
Thank
Right.
you.
Any public comment?
Let me just double check. Shayla, do you check that online or?
I checked the email. I don't have
Okay,
access to the OpenGov.
Let me check our online site. Let me just refresh the page real quick. No public comment.
No public comment. In terms of agenda building for our next meeting, I know that we are going to try to have a little study group prior to our next meeting. Hopefully that can happen. So go ahead and kind of look at the calendars, trustees, and then send Shayla over some dates that would work for you. And also, let's continue this conversation about role clarity. When you think about COVID-19 and the pandemic, how we can better support the libraries as trustees, as as an advisory board, how we could better stimulate interest within the community and collaborate. So that would be my agenda topic for our next meeting, as well as as things change. We would want to have some COVID-19 updates from Shayla. And yeah, Let me just go around and see if anybody has anything to say for the good of the group. Vice President Paupua.
Not really. I just express my thanks to everybody, including the Parks and Rec, who invited, myself to put in 10 minutes. Happy holidays for that wonderful program that they put together for our community, especially our children. So just want to share that. And then for everybody that is on task, thank you very much. Have a great week.
And what about Trustee Santos?
No additional thing. Thank you for all the work and again, like always grateful for the hustle of the library staff, especially in this time of constant pivots and shifting. And so, if there's anything coming up, let us know how we can be supportive.
Thank you. And Trustee Dawes?
No further comments. Just want to thank everyone for giving information, and I hope everyone out there is staying safe and healthy.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Special thanks to Cole for joining us and for that presentation, and also to DCPLA and Victoria for the Poet Laureate program and giving us some updates. At 7:03, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.